Welcome to the SoulSync, where we explore real conversations on personal growth, relationships, and business success. I'm your host, Avante, and each episode brings deep stories and practical advice to help you level up in life. So let's sync up and dive in. Today, I have my good friend Sean, who's actually big in the marketing department. And also, he is good. He's also actually a guide on small and minority owned businesses. Sean, I just want to say thank you today for being on the podcast. And I want you to let the audience know who you are and what is it that you do.
Sure. My name's Sean Atkinson. I'm a small business advisor. I have a focus on brand building and marketing strategy. A bit of a lifer. I got introduced to brand building as a child when my mother started working at the record labels, and I got taught really, really early because it was something that I showed an interest in, asked questions beyond my years. So where some people got their training like in their 20s. I got mine starting at like 6, 7 years old and used to get little assignments and things like that. So my understanding of marketing, advertising, and just the overall sales process is well versed because I've been looking at examples of it for a long, long time. So what I've done is I basically just taken everything that I've learned from the music industry and all the other industries and different processes, and I'm taking that information, translating it into something that small business owners, entrepreneurs, and just regular people can understand. Because if you just go by the jargon that they have out there, sometimes it can be confusing.
Okay. So when you first got into the music business, so what kind of like sparked your interest to the music business? Was it like you knew a friend who knew a friend, or it was like you had somebody who like a relative that was in the music industry already?
Well, my mother started working at Atlantic Records and Atco, which is now Elektra Records, when I was 6. And one of the things that got me interested in it was before she started, and really back in the days, you used to be able to go to work, go to the job, and spend a lot more time there than people do now. She had to teach me the understanding of the difference between a public persona and what someone actually may be like. So where I was a little kid and I used to run up to people and ask questions and things like that, her thing is when you show up to work, you can't do that. You have to understand that somebody public persona may be different than what it is when you see them upstairs. So if you see them upstairs and they're acting one way and you see them downstairs and they're acting another way, I need you to know what you're looking at. So it was an early lesson on reading the room and then understanding brand building and how to be able to build personas and things like that. So there were artists that were meant to be really scary in public, but when I would see them upstairs on the record label floors, they were the nicest people in the world. And some of the nicest people in the world downstairs may have been just downright assholes upstairs. So, like, I had to learn how to be able to read that and understand it. And then it gave me an understanding of knowing the difference between an audience that needed an audience that has expectations of a specific need. So, for example, there are some audiences that want R&B, and they will say, okay, based on what we know the audience needs, we're going to find an artist that fits that need. And then in other cases, there are people that are really talented, and they'll say, we've got an artist, we need to find an audience for them. So learning those two differentiators early on made it easier for me to be able to understand marketing, advertising, building brands, and understanding how to be able to set yourself up where you can either find an audience that matches who you are or figure out how you need to match the audience that you're trying to work with.
Okay, so I can say this that when it came to marketing and branding, I will admit that I'll be honest, I'm not a guru in. I'll be honest, I'm really not a whole guru in that. In the beginning, when I was just a novice into it, it was just like I was always trying to figure out like, okay, so who do I need to market to? Who do I need to talk to? Like how do I go about this, right? Because I mean, let's be honest, in school they didn't teach you really about marketing. And then even though you go to colleges, right? But in colleges too, they give you small snippets. They never really give you the full picture. So marketing branding has always been something that's been looked at as like it's extremely hard to do. Like it's like, hey, like if you don't know nobody who's already in marketing, then you're kind of like out of it type of deal. So I mean, today's age, yeah, we know we got YouTube University now where we can learn about marketing and branding. And then you have gurus who do go online and say, yeah, I can help you, blah blah blah. But what will you say what do you say separates you from them? Because you know how some would say like, yeah, man, I can help you with this and this, but I'm looking at their Instagram, I'm looking at all the social media. Hey, see, the only time I can really say I can put like some faith in somebody or at least have a belief in them if I see receipts. And then not even just receipts, but also, hey, do you have a mentor? Because like even though not saying it's not possible for somebody to learn how to learn marketing and branding all by themselves. It's a lot more longer process. But if you have a mentor who are already there, they can navigate you that way success a lot faster. So like what would you say will separate you from other people?
Coming up on 40 years of experience living in the life. So I'll give you an example. When I was probably about like 7, 8, I started getting assignments. So one of the things that they would do is they said, if you I'm in New York. So when I would ride the train, they would say, I want you to be able to tell me who they're marketing to and what they're actually selling beyond what the words say, what they're actually selling. So as a kid, I used to ride the train and I could tell what neighborhood we were in based on the ads that were posted on the train station. So
Wow.
those are things that like having that early enough start to be able to say, oh, we're in a Spanish neighborhood. Oh, we're in an Irish neighborhood. Oh, we're in this neighborhood right now. Oh, they're selling the same thing. They're just changing the way that they're selling it, either by changing the picture of the person or they actually change the whole tone in the way that they're promoting the product that they're trying to sell. One of the things that I learned was it's important to understand the whole process. So I got my start on the music side, but what I realized was one of the hardest things to sell are people because people talk and they do things. So I started at the hardest part first and then moved over to fashion, entertainment, and all the other industries. And I wanted to learn the full process. So I worked on the brand side, I worked on the publishing side, and then I worked on the agencies and the exchange that's in between. Because what I wanted to know is the full supply and demand process. So what I would say separates me is I don't really go by tactics where like I hear guru and sometimes I cringe because what they normally happens is someone will tell you, okay, well, here's the things that I did to make me successful. But by the time they go to share it, it's already a watered down version of it. And it's not customized to that actual person. So they can tell you
Mm.
what they did, but if you're not a mirror version of who they are in their situation, then what they're giving you is the what. They're not telling you the how. And a lot of times what happens is you'll get a lot of people that will tell you, here's what you have to do, but they don't necessarily teach you how to apply it to your life and your specific situation.
Or you hit that
I
link.
go by individuals as opposed to here's just a blanket thing that you can do. I can make general statements and say, here's the things that I know. These are the basic things that you would need to know. But when I work with clients or customers, or when I'm having a conversation and someone's asking for guidance, I'm asking the questions about their life and then showing them how to be able to apply the best practices and things to their self and their business. So that's really the major difference. A lot of times, what you'll see is people will say, "Oh, well, all you have to do is go online and set something up." If you don't have like for myself, I post online, but I post online for awareness. I'm not posting for engagement because, for example, like Instagram, I'm on Instagram, but I'm really just sharing information and sharing links for people to be able to learn more. Like I'm educating through the process as opposed to getting online and saying, well, I need to get this many likes or I got to get this many comments. That's not what I'm doing. I'm giving them the information and the people that go, "Ooh, you know what? That's actually something that's helpful." Those are the ones that reach out and then that's where I get to have the meaningful conversations from there. So I'm more of a customized person as opposed to doing something where it's just general for everybody.
Okay, so would you say then? So that in that perspective, right? I would say that's kind of like the same thing. That's pretty much really the same thing for me. So like even though like when I do posting content and stuff like that, I'm not really worried about in terms of the likes and stuff like that. I'm really more so worried about, hey, who would this reach out to? How would this affect that person's life? Because it could be somebody who could be going through life, having a hardship, right? But then they come across my content that can actually touch them in a way to kind of help them at least shift or at least get on that pedestal to right now want to start working towards being a better version of themselves. And
Absolutely.
honestly, in this game, really, we live in, personally, I feel like we're just in a video game. I always say we live in Grand Theft Auto, because you always have like quests and stuff every single day that you got to achieve and do in order for you to get to the next level. So like when we're talking about like marketing, even talking about just anything really in general, would it be safe to say then that marketing would be something that's looked at, should be looked at in a way of not just getting the engagements, but more so just reaching that right audience, or reaching out really that right person that really that would really matter most to? Would you say that probably safe to say?
I try not to make blanket statements where it's just like perfect for everybody, but what I would say is the the one thing that you definitely need to use it for is social listening. The audience will always tell you what you need to know and how to be successful. So if you know what to listen for and look for, then you know where to find the audience that you want to be able to engage with, and then you can actually start focusing on engagement. So a lot of times what happens is, like, for example, I still get a bunch of DMs where people will say, I can get you in front of this many people by promoting you on my webpage. I mean on my like Instagram profile. And then I can go to the Instagram profile and they're selling a bunch of, like, they're promoting a bunch of different things from a bunch of different industries, and they're not managing the comments, they're not doing any of these things. And I'm looking at it going, well, first of all, no. And second, like, if you're promoting to everybody, then you're not promoting to anybody. So it's more important to understand who your audience is, where to find them, and start learning how they talk. Because marketing is really more a matter of taking everything that you learn from them and repeating it back to them in a way that makes them go, yeah, you get me.
Mm-hmm.
And once you do that part, then it makes it easier for you to be able to get the engagement and everything else. That's why I said when I post for awareness, and awareness is just another way of saying people know that I exist. I'm making them aware of articles. I'm making them aware of workbooks and toolkits and all the different information that I'm putting out there, because I need to know where they are in their journey. So some people, if they're an established business, my advice for them, or my recommendation for how to be able to manage their social media presence, is going to be different than someone that's at an early stage. So if you're just starting out, your goal is going to be drastically different than somebody that is an existing business. Because an existing business that already knows who their audience is, then that's where it may make more sense to be able to do things like paid ads and stuff like that. But what happens is it's almost the opposite. There's a lot of new business owners that say, oh, well, I'm going to do paid ads, Facebook, Instagram, a bunch of these different things. You're actually paying to try to figure out who your audience is. And that's counterproductive. What you're supposed to do is figure out who your audience is, figure out what they want to hear, figure out what they like, figure out what they're prioritizing, and build your business around that. So then this way, when you do start paying to advertise, you're paying to say, I figured all of those things out. This is what makes me someone that you should pay more attention to, as opposed to everybody else. So it's a little bit different. What I would say is, when you're thinking about social media or just entrepreneurship in general, a lot of the things that we do in our regular lives are things that can be translated over into the professional world. You just have to know how to strategically apply it. So,
Mm.
for example, people that work Monday through Friday, um, and then they're the weekend warriors, where over the weekend they know they have to get all of these things done. Um, that's going to be something where you know how to be able to operate that's operational understanding. So, some of the things that you know how to be able to manage, like, I have I know I have to leave early, because if I don't, and I got to get my food shopping done, if I leave too late, I'm going to end up in lines all day. And then by the time I get home, I won't be able to take care of any of the things that I need to get done around the house. If you know how to be able to take that understanding and say, okay, well, let me apply that to business, and say, okay, well, I can only assign things that I know that I can do to myself. And then if it's something where I need to outsource it to somebody else, you're not going to give laundry to a kid that's 4 years old. They're not going to know to mix the colors. I mean, they're going to mix the colors together. They're going to shrink the clothes.
They will throw
You're going to give
everything all
things
at
to people
once.
that you know. You assign the things to the people that you know that can actually fulfill that task. And all of those things that you're using in your regular life, like if you're talking to someone and like we could be having a conversation meeting the street, if I say something to you and I see you screw your face up, I'm going to change the tone, I'm going to change the way that I'm talking to accommodate you. That's marketing. That's going, okay, I see I said something that didn't necessarily resonate with you the right way. What does? And then you start to change how you approach that person based on their reactions. So that's why I say social listening is more important on social media than what you're saying. So a lot of times what I do on social media is I'm looking at what people are saying and I'm gathering, where are you struggling? What's important to you? If I know what's important to them and I know where they're struggling and where they're having the challenges, when I do post something where I want to get engagement, I'm repeating back what it is that they're saying they're struggling with. And that's how we make that connection.
Okay. So I like that. That's actually very powerful that you said that too. Because one thing that I wanted, so one thing actually I was thinking about was this. So when I first started SoulSync, right? I was
Mhm.
trying to figure out like who is my audience? Who is it that I need to like really talk to or like speak to or like have this message for, right? And then once I do more of a deep dive into it, I started to figure out that at first, like at one point, I thought I was going to talk to just single fathers. Then at one point, I thought I was going to talk to just people with parents. Then I talked to people. Then I thought about maybe it needs to be around people who went through hardships. But then, like when I'm talking about this stuff, I'm like, well, everything I'm really saying is more of a generic, like a more generic, more broad type of topic, right? So I had to sit down and rethink like who is it I need to like talk, like share this stuff with. And then over time, I figured out that who I'm really marketing to is the people. Is honestly just is really people between not just men, not just women, but men, women, and also business people who do business, entrepreneurs. Because that's one thing I will say though. I think I have really have very little content I've seen on is like people who are entrepreneurs, people who has businesses, and people who nobody really talks about like their relationship or how their relationships affected them in a way, how where they got to where they are now, or hey, if this and this didn't happen, would you have still been where you at today, or would you been a lot further if
Mhm.
certain situations would have played out? So I had to sit there and realize that my audience is really just is honestly it's everybody. But then when you dial into it, the certain topics I talk about is spirituality, relationships, business success, but also as well, really just life in general. Because there's things that we both know. You don't know what's really going to happen tomorrow. You may have an idea of what happened tomorrow, but for all we know, let's just say the Statue of Liberty blows up. Well, shit, it's not like we expected that to happen, right? But it did though. So, like understanding your audience and who you need to market to, I will agree is definitely very important. Because, and I also agree too, where you're talking about like yeah, like if I pay for a promotion or if I try to get with somebody who try to help me broaden my social media more, it doesn't make sense for me to do that with somebody and I'm looking at their page and all they have one thing talk about selling food, then they have over here talking about credit repair, then over here they're talking about yeah, this is the 5 ways how you can get like how you can learn coding. Like wait, so what is it that I'm really like, doing, right? Like the only few pages that I seen that's okay to do in a way to a certain degree was Spiritual World on Instagram and World Star. Cause they kind of give you broad and new. It's really more so like a news outlet more than anything. So like that fits for them because it's news. But like for people like you and me, right? Like if we are going to do that, if we are going to do something, we got to make sure Marcus is in that niche area where it fits and where it makes sense at. So I do agree. So I do agree that's definitely something that's very important that definitely needs to happen. Um, I wanted to get into also as someone who works with both big brands and small businesses, what's the most common mistake you see small businesses making when it comes to branding?
Branding specifically, or just in common mistakes they make in general?
Let's say for the audience, let's just say specific brands. This is like brand specifically.
First, I would say most don't think of themselves as a brand, and that's the biggest mistake. You are your brand and your brand is you. So if you are like I've seen some people where they have their Instagram set up and they have their profile, but they're posting like pictures at the beach and then they're still saying, "Well, I run this business." If those two things don't align, then what you're doing is you're kind of confusing people. So, yes, you can post some personal stuff so people feel like they're getting a look behind the scenes, but if it's not relevant to what you're selling and it's not continuing the narrative that you're supposed to be putting together, then it's kind of counterproductive. So to kind of go back to what you were saying with the places where they're selling different things or promoting different things.
Hmm.
If people don't know what to expect when they get to your page, your profile, or whatever it may be, then what reason do they have to come back? Like you never know what you're going to see. So one day you may see something like, "Oh, that was interesting," and you go back to try to see if you can find it again, or see if there's a continuation of that conversation. And there's no continuation, then you're not moving them through what they call the customer journey. And the customer journey, it can start with giving them the initial thought that they might have that there's a challenge or something that they didn't even think that they needed to address, all the way through having them as a customer and turning them into someone that sings your praises and helps you get free referrals and promotes your business in a way that you don't have to do paid promotion because you've got customers that are talking about how great you are. Paid ads are great because it will get you in front of the right people. Customer testimonials, case studies, customer success stories are what actually close deals because at the end of the day, one, people don't normally want to be the first person when it comes to being a sale. Like they want to know more. Like, well, what's the experience? How do you deal with things if things don't go exactly the way that they're supposed to go? There's so many different things to it. Everybody that runs a business can say they have the best business. It's the customers that say, "Oh no, here's where I was at. Here's the experience that I had, and here's the results that I got." That stands out a lot more. So where I would say a lot of people are making issues like, well, small brands have issues, is they're so focused on talking about why they think they're relevant that they're not focusing enough on getting their customers to say, "Here's the experience that you can expect." If you get your customers saying, "Here's the experience that you can expect," then you're putting yourself in a position for people to not have to listen to you because how many business owners are going to say, "Yeah, I'm all right." You know what I mean? They're always going to say, "I can do this, I can do that."
Yeah.
Uh, when you see people that like gurus will say, I 10x something. If you were making no money and I made you $10, I just 10x you. So you have to understand like there's jargon, there's lingo, there's different things that people use so that they can make themselves seem like there's something that they're not or that they're further along than they are. That's why people believe in the customer testimonials a little bit more than they do what the brand may say. And that's one of the reasons why I'm not necessarily a big fan of the gurus that will put stuff out there and say, "Oh, all you have to do is this, all you have to do is that." I agree with what you were saying. The way that I look at it is I assess their situation and then I pull best practices from things that I know from over the years because there's overlaps. Sometimes people ask me, well, what industry do you focus on? I don't need to focus on a specific industry. I focus on the business journey and the customer journey. Like, if I know where you are in your business journey, like, are you just figuring things out? Did you just get the business idea and you're trying to figure out what the next steps are? Are you an existing business that's been around for a while and now you're trying to get more customers, but you don't understand why you're not getting more customers? Those are business journey stages. When we're talking about a customer, like going back to Instagram and what you post on social media and things like that, if you're not continuing a conversation, you gave somebody an idea to let them know that there's something that they may want to address. You might have introduced them to the idea, but all you did was put them in a position to go to somebody else to actually get that result. So if you start a conversation, finish the conversation. So when we're talking about branding, know your brand story, give people a reason to want to be able to learn more about you, but don't forget that it's about the customer. So you really need to be telling their story in a way that makes them go, "Yeah, that you get me," because then that makes them feel that they got in the right place. So your brand is technically a continuation of who they are. Like they won't care about us until they have a reason to care about us. You know what I mean? Like it starts off with what's in it for me
Yeah,
before it start. Well, all right, well now tell me who you are.
and
So
that's
where a lot of them are making a mistake is they're so busy talking about themselves that they're forgetting that the only person that really matters is the person that you're trying to get to pay you for whatever it is that you're offering.
yeah, and the harsh truth I had to learn too is that nobody cares who you are. They just care what is it that you have to offer me, and that's it. Like if y'all build a genuine connection, then great. But at the end of the day, 9 times out of 10, like in terms of a customer or even a client, like they're only thing they really care about really it's not to be mean. It's just the truth of the fact because we're human beings. And plus, it's not like times are easy now. Times are hard as hell. So like if I'm gonna do something, I want to know it's worth my time because I don't have time to be playing around. And so
Yeah.
one thing I actually was taught this a couple of weeks ago. I was on a business call. I was told to look at Instagram or really look at social media as a whole as a shopping mall, right? Look at it as a shopping mall, and then within that shopping mall, you have multiple different stores. So you got to dress up your store and make your store more appealing than others. So that way you have people. So that way when you have customers, they invite you. You're inviting them in. Do you want to be like, hey, if I go walk into the store, will this be something I want to buy? What is it that they have to offer? What is it that makes sense, right? Like you go into a boutique store, even though some boutique stores they don't really have everything set up the way you will want them to, or at least that you will like. And it may not be for you, may not be for you. But like if you're trying to invite the right people to shop in your store, you got to make sure it makes sense. So when I was told that, I'm like, you know what? That really does simplify things a little bit better now because
Yeah.
I never really looked at it before like that. But then when you really look back and look at it, when you look at all the people you follow, the people you have gotten stuff from in the past and stuff like that, we think about it, they do got everything aligned the right way. And that's from like a theme perspective on their social media pages to what is that they have to offer, and even to content, driving content. Yeah, get it. Yes, likes and stuff plays a part into help you get in more engagement. But I mean, for the few people who do come on your page, if you're providing good value at the end of the day, that's really what matters is the value. The people will come anyway, regardless. It's just a whole point of the value that's being projected to see. There was all part of the value being projected so that you can at least get those right, get in front of the right people. And that's one of the
Mhm.
biggest things that's really more important more than anything is that. How do you help businesses stay true to their core values with growing and scaling? So like let's say for example, there's a dude who has a t-shirt brand, for example. If they have a t-shirt brand, how would you help them try to stay true to their core values?
It really depends on the individual. So,
Okay.
like I said, I don't make broad statements of, well, this is what you would have to do no matter what kind of, if you sell t shirts, as long as you do this, this will work. Because let's look at it from the standpoint of there are some people that have a bunch of friends and friends of friends that'll invest in their business and buy their t shirts. And there are some people that don't have that support system. So what I'm looking at is I'm asking those questions to find out what is your support system? Who do you have around you? What's your circumstances? And then I'm building recommendations around that. So if it's someone that has a bunch of people as friends that may buy the t-shirts and all the rest of that, then what I would say is, and I've got online customers, people have online stores as customers, and I remember going to one where he had a pop up shop, and all of his friends showed up, bought all the merch and everything within a span of hours, and it was a whole big table full of stuff. And by the time like an hour went by, half the stuff was gone, and before I left, it was pretty much down to the bottom. In that situation, I'm saying leverage your friends, get them to post, have them tag you in the post. So this isn't you posting on social media yourself and promoting your stuff. It's almost the same as going back to what I was saying. It's having people that are customers do it, because ideally, again, what people are looking at is they're looking for a way to be able to connect. If it can be someone that, let's say you post something and it's, you've got shorties wearing some of your clothes. Some people may see that and go, oh, I want to be able to get with a shorty like that, so I need to be able to wear some, I need to have some of the stuff that I know they wear, or I need to be aware of this so that I know, if it comes up in conversation, I can say, oh yeah, I know about that brand. It may be someone that says, I want to change my look, and then they're seeing that brand and they're saying, okay, that person looks like me. Like I'm a bigger guy. Like I'm 6'8", 6'9". Like I can't look at somebody 5 foot tall wearing an outfit and go, oh, I could wear that. I have to look at somebody that matches who I am to know that, like, going back to the mall analogy, I used to go to the mall with my friends and they would leave with shopping bags and all I could get was t-shirts, short sleeve. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
none of the stuff fit me. So like you have to understand the circumstances in order to understand how to be able to set everything up. If it's someone that doesn't have a lot of people that can give them that level of support, then that's where having a value network starts to kick in. So in that situation, what I would say is, and this throws some people off, especially as small business owners, but the larger brands get it. Give some of that stuff away for free and get them with the condition of you're going to tag me in a post. I'm going to give this to you for free so that you can have examples out there. Now, yes, you're giving that away for free, but the testimonial is worth just as much, if not more, than what you would have gotten from that sale. Now, I can give you an analogy, well, like a story that this one is old, but it's still relevant to what you were just saying.
Okay.
Do you remember rollerblades?
Oh yeah, I remember very well.
When they were originally putting out rollerblades, what they did is they found specific people and they handed it out to them. So again, in New York, so they had people that they knew were jogging and doing their roller skating and everything as they're exercising in the morning and all the rest of that. They gave them the rollerblades for free, and they gave it to people that they felt were cool. So when somebody would see them, they were like, "Oh, those are cool. Where'd you get that from?" They gave those away for free, but by the time this was before they launched. So by the time they went to launch, they already had a wait list for people that were saying pre-ordering the rollerblades. So when they opened, they automatically had a whole wealth of clients that they already knew that they were going to be able to have buying not just one, but maybe two or three things. So that one that they gave away for free allowed them to be able to get multiple and multiple customers to the point where they were able to start and get everything pretty well right off from the jump. Another example would be Apple. How many times have you seen Apple when they do a launch? They got people in lawn chairs and sleeping bags out in front of the store before it even comes out.
Even for the iPhone
It's if you
16.
promote it properly before it comes out, then you're in a position to be able to forecast those kind of sales. You can do it if you got the large support system, but you
Mm-hmm.
can also do it if you're someone that doesn't have that large support system. You just have to be strategic about it. And unfortunately, smaller businesses tend to say, well, I can't afford to take that loss. It's not a loss if you know how to be able to leverage it.
Mm, that's a bar. I like that. I like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's shift this focus a little bit. Okay,
Hmm.
so let's do a little bit more of a deep dive because once again, it can't be soul sinking. We want to dive even deeper into the soul.
So it
So
is.
I wanted to ask you, in terms of everything that you've been doing up to this point, right? What would you say as a black man that has been probably maybe one of the biggest hurdles you had to deal with in the marketing business?
Again, like 6'8", 6'9", first thing that people will say is, how come you're not playing basketball? And I had to get, I was dealing when I was 16, I was like 6'6", 6'7". So as soon as somebody saw me, if I had your height, I would this. If I was doing, if I had your height, I would that. Oh, we could have used you. Like I couldn't walk past MSG when the Knicks played if they lost, because as soon as they walk out and they're mad they lost, well, we could have used you last night. And it's like, you know what? So
Give
the
me a
thing that I
contract
had to be
then.
able to do, yeah, listen, I'm like, it's what I realized in like high school was I'm smarter than that. Like I've had businesses of my own. Like I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've had businesses since I was a kid. Once they told me about branding and marketing and showed me how to be able to look at the spectrum and how things work, I was selling candy in school. Like yes, I got that brand building and that information from like the record labels, but what I learned was my mother introduced me to Monopoly. That's where I really got the entrepreneur part of it. Where I was asking her permission, can I buy this property? She was like, it's your money, you can do whatever you want. And I was like, wait. So if I have my own money, I can do whatever I want? Yeah. And I was like, is it just in this game or is it in life? The thing is, no, if you got your own money, like I'm going to tell you what to do with your allowance because I'm giving you that money. But if you had your own money, you can do whatever you want. Oh, say less. All right. So what I did is on my way to school, I realized I went in a few times. I would buy candy and somebody, oh, let me get one. Bruh, like if I give it to you, I'm not going to have any. Why would I do that? So then I realized, you know what? There's an opportunity. I
Mm-hmm.
doubled down on the amount of candy I would buy. I'd wait until we got into like third period where they couldn't leave school. And then I'd slowly unwrap it in class and start. And somebody would go, oh, let me get one, 3 for a quarter. So by the time I got to lunchtime, I only not only made my money back, but I had made a profit. And I got so good at it that by the time open school night came around, the teacher had to tell my mother, your son is very enterprising, but he's interrupting my class. So I've always been looking at it from that standpoint of if you understand what you're looking at, you see opportunities everywhere. So when I say I'm looking at it for myself, I knew that as a black man, I had to dress a certain kind of way. Um, like I remember where I used to wear jeans and things like that, and I would tell executives like, "Listen, you can't do this, you can't do that. These are the rules that are in place," and they would say, "You know what? Yeah, whatever," and do it anyway. The moment I started putting on a suit, they started listening to what I was saying a little bit more. So I just realized, okay, so I have a uniform that I have to wear to work. And I can remember being at one company where a guy saw me, and they clients come in and out all the time, but he was coming in and out all that week. And he saw me one day and was like, "Oh, hey, you look nice." And I was like, "I appreciate it." Didn't know who he was, just kept it pushing. Then he saw me again, and he saw me again, and then by the time we got towards like Thursday, his thing is, "So you dress like that all the time? That wasn't just like you having a client meeting, like you do that all the time." And I'm like, yes, but it's what allowed me to be able to stand out, not just because of my height, but because of the way that I carried myself, so that it changed the perception and the conversation. So, like, I knew for myself that perception was very specific things. As a black man in the corporate world, working with these big brands, I was managing 6 and 7 figure client accounts. So, I don't get to be the angry black man. You know what I mean? Like if somebody did something that was out of pocket, what I had to learn to be able to do is not have that honest reaction that I would if somebody did that to me anywhere else, and know that I'm in the corporate world where it's just as grimy, if not more, because they feel like you can't do something to them.
Mm-hmm.
So keeping it a buck, like after I got to a certain point and my stature got to a certain point, what I would do is I would just lean in when somebody did something out of pocket, and I would let them know your 13th floor important. But if I see you on the first floor, we're going to have a different kind of conversation. So, like, these are the things that I had to learn for myself. And, you have to figure out how to be able to make things work for you. The challenges that I face, well, yeah, like there's that. And then there's the people that are like, you're a big guy. If I'm on an interview and they say you're a big guy, I already know to a certain extent I might not get that. I might not get that job. Because what you're already looking at is if you're mentioning that to me, then what you're telling me, this is one of the reasons why I say if you listen, people will tell you everything that you need to know. Why are you worried about me being a big guy? Are you planning on doing something where you got to worry about how big I am?
Mm.
Because if you plan on violating, then you're looking at me going, if I cross the line, he might lay hands on me. That's a good assumption. You know what I mean?
So like
Like,
get him a
that's
Nobel
a good
Prize. This
assumption.
man, this man picking up on something.
Yeah. So I'm listening, and like people will say, like I've been on interviews where I've three people interviewing at the same time. Well, what do you like to do in your spare time? That lets me know, like after work, you like to hang out after work. So like I'm listening for the different things, and I have to be able to go in. So like I learned that not only am I being interviewed, I'm interviewing them because I have to listen for the telltale signs that they're telling me of this is what you can expect when you go into a situation. That's how I deal with clients. That's how I deal with everybody. I listen to what they're saying, and then my reaction is based on theirs. So like I would tell people, even out in the street, I would say, listen, I don't start things, I end them, but I don't start them. So like I listen, read the room, understand the situation, and then react. Like I have to, as a bigger guy, like that's just my thing. I don't get to have an honest reaction because if I have an honest reaction, I raise my voice or something like that. I'm the angry black man that threatened them when I didn't even say anything. They just felt threatened because they looked at me and they knew they were a habitual line stepper. So for me, I had to know I have to be the gentle giant, and still have boundaries in place that allow me to be able to say, don't do that, because that's not going to end well, but still give them enough comfort so that they felt comfortable having me in those places and helping them generate the money that they needed to have.
Okay. I like that. All right. So what is it? So speaking while we're on the black man topic, um, what is something in terms what how do you feel about that like in today's society, right? Like when they talked about when we see on social media and stuff like that, or even we could be out and about over here where they talk about like how some women they feel like if a man is working too much, or if a man is pretty much doing this and this and this, or let's just say one day, you had a long day at work, or let's just say a long day at business, right? Let's just say that you had to deal with some really stupid clients, right? But you had to put on your face, you don't want to lose them to a certain degree. But then like you get home, try to vent about it, but then when you vent about it, then she's like, why you talking to me about it? Like, why is it that you telling me your problems? I mean, aren't you
Yeah.
my woman? Like, I would expect that just as much you come home to me and vent to me about anything that you want to do, that you want to talk about, whether that's Keisha talking shit at work, or let's just say that your boss decided to tell you had to stay extra work, so you want to complain to me about it. But then when I come home and want to share with you my feelings, I'm getting shut down about it. So when you shutting me down about it, now I feel like I can't trust you with certain information, which means now if I don't have another outlet, I'm gonna have to keep all that bottled up. And I learned that actually, when you keep feelings bottled up, that can affect you not just from a personal level, but even if you're working towards doing the business or working on your business and stuff like that. Because what a lot of people don't think about is that when you have a lot of stress built up, and that doesn't matter where it's coming from, if you don't have an outlet or a healthy outlet to even express that in some way, that can actually create problems to where your business can end up failing, or
Yeah.
or let's just say that you was looking to trying to start something, but now you feel like you can't now because of
Hmm.
stress build up, and then the lack of motivation and the lack of courage behind it now, because you have all this stress and built up about it. Like, how do you feel about all of that?
You covered a few different things, and I will go back through them. One, I think the expectations on men in general are interesting. Where we find ourselves today, like in the times we're in now, we're in a renegotiation period between men and women, because the expectations of they want to be old school, like they want a man that's old school values, but they still want to be boss bees. And like the old school values meant like, all right, well, if I'm going out and going to work and I'm doing all the rest of this and you're home and you're taking care of home, you have your job, I have my job. But now some of them have jobs, and well, not some, most people have jobs now. So they want to go to work and take care of what they need to take care of. They want you to take care of what you need to take care of, but they also want you to have the expectations of meeting those old school standards. That's unrealistic. And what we're finding is we're seeing more and more people getting burnt out. Brothers are getting burnt out, and they're like, what happened to all the good men? What happened to the good men is some either got, I don't want to say smart, some have gotten jaded to the point where they're like, you know what, I got to see to me because I'm the only one that's going to see to me.
Hmm.
And there are others where they're, yeah, you can be in a situation. I like, for me, um, I had to I had to be the good guy all day. So when somebody would say something out of pocket, or somebody would, like, if I was having a bad day, I didn't get to have that reaction that I would like. I may want to be able to have. So when I got off from work, I didn't want to be on the phone with Shorty. I've been on the phone all day listening to people complain about what's going on with them and have to be understanding. So when I get home, I need a minute. And if I can't give that outlet, the thing that people need to understand, and this goes into the next thing that you were talking about, was if you don't have an outlet, it's going to come out somewhere. You're just a powder keg. Eventually, it's going to come out somewhere. Better for it to come out in a way that you can control than for an unexpected way, because you're putting yourself at risk.
Yeah.
And if you don't address that, and if you can't have that person in your life be the person that you can relay that information to, then from a relationship standpoint, you're going to find an outlet. And this is where this is why I say we're in a renegotiation period, because I know a lot of people where their shorties make more money than them, and they, when shorty's making more money than you, the last thing she wants to hear is you complain about your job, because She got her own stress going on. So how are you going to go to her complaining about your job when she's got just as much, but she's saying that I don't get to complain to you about it? Like,
Mm,
that's going to be something where you have to figure out your situation, and you have to have an honest conversation about how to be able to structure things. Because what happens is, if we're being honest, if you look at the statistics, one of the reasons why women outlive men is because men have that level of expectations on them. They will drive some brothers into the ground. And if you're not cognizant of the situation that you're putting yourself in, you will feel obligated. Where now, you'll see things where, like, oh well, I don't want to go to a chain restaurant, darling. The food is good. And if I'm spending money on that, then that means I can't put money towards bills, or I can't put money towards things that actually matter, that further us in life. You're asking me to invest in something that's momentary, and then later on, when you want to go on vacation or you want to go do things, how come we don't go out? How come we don't do this? How come we don't do that? It's because I wasted my money on frivolous things. So, like,
mm,
we have to be able to have some boundaries and things in place that say, yes, I want to make sure that our goals are aligned. Because if you're not with someone that has the same goals that you have, they're trying to go in one direction, you're trying to go in another direction, and you're pulling at each other and blocking each other from being able to get to their definition of success. So I would say it's hard for brothers because they've been put in a position where they still are held to the standards of old school mentality of, you should pay my rent, you should pay my bills, you should do this, you should do that. Most people, most guys have been paying for dates since they were 14, 15, 16. Now you can't even go to the movies without basically spending $100. So when they say, how are you a grown man, 20 something years old, and you don't have any savings? It's because I had to pay for those dates for the past 10, 15 years. And I didn't get to put that money aside. So for a guy, as a brother, we got to make twice as much to be able to not only make that savings, but to still be able to meet those standards. So, like, you have to know who you're getting into a relationship with, especially if you're going to be going into entrepreneurship and being a small business owner. Because we talked about it earlier, women don't downgrade. So if they get used to a certain expectations, they expect you to at least maintain that. But realistically, they expect to see advancement. Like, we're not in the days where you got with somebody because they had promise. Now that it's instant gratification. So if you don't have a savings, if you can't take them out places, if they're not getting flowers and things that they could post up on Instagram and make their lives seem better than they are, you you may not come across as somebody that seems like they're valuable or worth their time. So
mm.
we're renegotiating right now, where they're realizing there was a whole era where, they were, I don't need a man. Now a lot of these women that were in that position that felt that way are getting up to that wall where they get to 40, they start looking at their lives, they start saying, well, you know what, it's too hard out here for me to be doing it by myself. I wish I could have somebody that was doing this, and the other. You've alienated a whole group of people by saying, well, you're not this and you're not that. That's where the renegotiation is starting to kick in. A lot of these generations, if we're breaking it down, keeping it a buck,
Yeah.
if you look back to Papa was a Rolling Stone era, where women had to, fathers would leave home and they would leave the mothers to just kind of take care of the kids and stuff themselves. That next generation that came after that, those daughters saw their father leave and have multiple families with multiple kids and all the rest of that. And they
Hmm.
said, that'll never be me. They turned into the group of women that said, I don't need a man, sperm donors, and all those other terms that we've ended up running into. If you look at that and then you look at the generation that came after that, we have just been building on that concept, so that the good men that were staying home, those expectations are still there. That's what a good man is. But how often are you online and you have more women you telling you what a man is than a man telling you what a man is?
You see, that's good you actually brought that up, because so one thing that a lot of people don't realize either is that certain traumas can trigger in you, right? But here's the thing: when they trigger in you, you just feel like it's not a problem. You think it's like a repetition type of thing, right? When you do the same thing over and over again, over time it just comes second nature. You don't really think about it; it just happens. So a lot of people don't think about this, but like when young daughters or even young brothers, when they see like their parent leave or their father or mother leave the household, right? That can create a trigger response to them, to where they're like, to them, they may feel like that's okay to do. But here's the thing, though. At the time, it may have hurt you, but over time, because that happened and you never really got over it, that feeling can shift into something that you just think is just regular, like a regular thing to do that you're not aware of. Just like when you said, right, like young daughters seeing their fathers leave the household, right? So one, you don't have a father figure. Two, due to you not having a father figure, now you don't know really how to treat the man the right way. And that's not saying that everything is on your fault, but when you get to a certain age, though, you get the chance to learn. You get a chance to actually do take the time to learn that, because it's not like we're in the Stone Age anymore. We have access to the internet. We have access to information. So when you don't take the time to learn yourself, and this not just go for just women, but of course men too, but when you don't take the time to learn yourself, learn your reason why you act the way you act, and actually do like what we call shadow work, it's not going to really play out for you in the way you want to long term. That's why you do see women out here who pretty much who ends up being still single, almost 40 years old. And then you see men out here also who pretty much due to them not acting accordingly the way a man is supposed to act. Now they're out here just doing whatever. Now, yeah, if you are on the intention like, hey, I just want to live my life and everything, cool. Make sure you're intentional about it. So when like if a woman do come across, right, it could be some out here who probably looking for that right woman. But if you know you're on that type of time, let her know that. Now it's up to her though how she handle that though, because she may say okay one time, but then over time while y'all kicking it, all of a sudden now she wants to get feelings. But you already made it known that you don't want no type of relationship on that type of level. So when you did your part, it's up to her now to do her part of the things. But then you get things though to be like, well, he ain't shit, he ain't do this and this. But well, listen, sweetheart, he already told you in the beginning though that he didn't want to. He gave you all the stuff. He even gave you, and even so too, if you saw flags, right, you had a chance to back out. You didn't. And then we hear the other ones talk about, well, these some stupid ass niggas out here because he got me pregnant, then he left me. Well, I mean, how stupid can he be if you the one who laid down with him? He didn't force you. You did that on your own accord. So if you did it on your own accord, wouldn't that just make you just as stupid? Because you want to lay down with the nigga. Nobody told you to. Like, he told you what type of time he's on. And even so, I come across men. I've actually was like this too at one point. I'm an entrepreneur stuff. Like I would at a certain point in time, I really didn't want to be in a relationship because I'm trying to work on doing what I got to do. Yeah, we'll have a kick and have fun and all that and stuff, but don't expect me to want to be in a relationship with you. I try to make it very clear to you, very clear as possible. And I ain't gonna say I'm perfect either. There was times in the past I have messed up because I just didn't know much about myself then. But the times I did, like I made sure that was known. But if you don't take heed to the information, it's like a contract, right? Like you're writing down everything on a piece of paper. It's all right here for you to read. Just like the terms and conditions. If you don't read those terms and conditions, especially that small print, then you're going to get fucked if you don't know what the hell you're talking about or hell you know what's going to happen to you. The possibility of something happening to you, right? And for us though, I will say for us as black men, I agree we do got to do better as a whole. And the first step in that, I feel like that should be the right direction, is creating that community to where we can all actually encourage each other the best way we can. And also as well, like if one of us need help that person get help, or at least point them in the right direction. At the end of the day, I mean, in reality, I mean, I know it's gonna be a very hard thing to try to get together on, but in a perfect world, that would be something that I would love to happen, because I would love to see successful black men and also successful black women. I would love all of us to be healed and work together. But in reality of things, though, due to social media, and then don't get me started on the food, because people don't know that certain food can actually certain food that you eat actually passes energy to you to where you start acting a type of way, whether that's emotional, spiritual, or even physical. And also between medicine as well, like there's a lot of different things that keeps us what we like to say our third eye closed. So when you have your third eye closed, now you can't tap into what the real reality is around you. And when you can't tap into the real reality is around you, now you're stuck in this this falsified world that you live in, that you feel like that anything you do, you can't do no wrong in, and that you always worried about me, 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 me. And so what I would want to see is just one, start off small community wise. I'll say we should first look at our own personal communities, round up the right groups of people who wants to be in the community, in that type of community, right? And start from there. Because in the long term, like in my long term, one of my actual goals I want to do long term is create actual mini schools, or at least mini programs, to where kids can learn entrepreneurship, but also as well at a young age help them get deals as well, like get in front of right investors and help them get deals and stuff too. Because that's something that I really want to do, especially for my daughter. Like I want to put kids in the right area, in the right space in life, to help them succeed, because school is not going to teach us none of this stuff. And honestly, they never will. That's probably one of the most old school things that have never changed. You see a flip phone back in the day. Look at the phone now, touch screen and everything. You see honestly too, like,
Where you going with it? Yeah.
yeah, like you see, it's just a change. Everything is changing, but school is not changing. It never will.
It's because it's one of the best hustles in the world.
From a business perspective.
It's literally one of the best hustles in the world. You can, I mean, think about how many people go through, and this isn't me bashing college or universities and things like that, but like you're taught to do things a certain way. You go to college, you get a degree, you end up leaving school, you have loans where I know people that are still 40s and 50s still trying to pay off their loans. How are you heading into a workforce with that kind of deficit, expecting to get ahead? You're being put into a position where you're always going to be beholden. Because if you're going in with that, then you have to work twice as hard to be able to break even, uh, or to get ahead. So if you're working, then technically, when you first get out of school, then you have to try to see if you can find something in your field. You're paying to learn what interests you, and then you go out into the world and then realize what interests you isn't always what you're going to get paid to do. So I call it one of the best hustles in the world, because they willingly have people pay them to be able to go to school so they can teach them something that you can learn a lot of different places, a lot of different ways, to get a degree that, like, back in the day, there was a point where they would say, well, you have to have a degree. Now, if you start submitting resumes and things like to some jobs, they still have it there, but it's not an absolute. Because one of the things that I learned is, and I'll kind of run it back to entrepreneur, but you said some interesting things about like relationships that I wanted to kind of get back to for a second. But
Okay.
uh, one of the things that I look at is, you have to be able to look at your situation, and you have to be able to understand what works best for you. So uh, when we're looking at getting jobs and trying to find out what's going to work best for you, if you're doing something that makes you miserable, then you're going to be a miserable person. Like, I realized, like, I loved advertising, marketing. I'm solution orientated person, so I'm a person that works in service. So I don't mind being in a version of a service industry, because I would probably do it for free. It's why I do podcasts and things like that, and share information with people, because I'm solution orientated. I want people to have the solutions to the things that they need to be able to have. There are some people that will go to school, go to get a degree, get out, realize that that degree didn't necessarily align with what they wanted, but they paid them all that money and they're in debt. And now you have to figure out what it is that you really want to be able to do, and still have to be able to make enough money to be able to pay off that debt that you had.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the reasons that, and similar to what you're doing, I've been talking to a lot of schools about setting up programs, because they teach you business management, but they don't teach you how to be able to start or run a business. Like, how am I going to manage a business? Who's going to trust me with managing their business if I've never had a business?
You don't know. You don't get the foundation in order yet.
So the business management course is I'm not going to say useless. It's not going to be useful to you until you've had a business to be able to run a business, because then you'll learn how to manage a business.
And it's somebody who actually is running a business who's teaching you how to run the business is also good too. Because I even seen in a lot of colleges, professors teach you about how to be a doctor. Professors teach you about how to do businesses and marketing, all of that. But they never did a day in their life. They was going off a curriculum. So it's like,
I can. Mhm.
what? It doesn't make sense. It don't.
I can tell you this. Part of one of the evolutions of me in my business journey is I know what I know because I've been looking at it for the better part of my life. But like I didn't know what they called it, so I would go to conferences and get on calls and stuff like that, and people are using jargon like, "Oh, well, there's this," and they've got acronyms and abbreviations for all of these things. One of the things that I started doing is, if you look, I've got a bunch of books, and I started studying branding and marketing because I'm a student of the game. Like I always feel like I need to continue to be learning. Yes, learn from the audience, but you also need to learn the best practices and the things that work, so that you can see where you can combine the two. But one of the things that I realized was a lot of the things that they were talking about in books. I'm like, I was doing that for years. So like I was doing it before they started writing about it. I just didn't know you gave it a name. So I'm reading through some of these books and I'm going, oh, is that what you call that? That's not what I call it. I was doing that, and this is you're saying do it this way. Here's five other ways that you can do it. There's a difference between being book smart and having actual hands-on experience. So yes, it's important to be able to understand the basic information to have that foundation, but without hands-on experience, you don't know what to do when the things that they tell you in the book don't align with the reality that you're looking at. So for me, I know from working in situations when something goes left, I'm able to say, okay, well, I've been here before. In this situation, I did this. I may not be able to do the exact same thing, but I've been here before, so I know how to overcome this. If you don't have that kind of experience, then you don't have a frame of reference. And if you go into a book, the books are dated, and the books are people that are, if they were, I don't want to thumb it down to this, but normally it's something where in some cases, now it's a little bit different because a lot of people have books. A lot of people are putting things out because they want to build their credibility. But there was a point where it's like those that can't do teach. So like you're telling me how to be able to do something, but if you could do it, then why aren't you showing me the example of you doing it? Like when I do
Mm.
courses and things like that, I'm creating something. Like for students, there's workshops. We're going to create a business. We're going to find out what parts of that business you're best at, because there's a difference between running a business and being a business owner. Business owners have to make tough decisions. I've run businesses. I didn't know how to be a business owner until I started my own business. Like I'll have conversations with people where I remember saying I got to, what was this, probably year five. And I remember talking to someone that was more seasoned. She's like, oh, I remember year five. I remember when things start to kick in and all of a sudden things start to click and you're understanding things a little bit better. Year three, I remember what this stage was. That's why I look at the business journey, because there's different stages. Every level comes with a different set of challenges. It doesn't get easier. If you look at the failure rate of small businesses, it doesn't go down, it goes up, because you may get away with making some mistakes and skipping steps initially. But once you're out there, you can't just change directions, because then you seem flaky. And then who's really going to want to work with you? If you start selling one product, then all of a sudden you run into a different direction. So there's a lot of things that go with that. But I definitely want to circle back to the relationship standpoint, because I don't want it to be something where we're putting solely the responsibility on shorties.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
agree.
we know as men, like if we tell a shorty, like, listen, I'm not really trying to go there like that, and yet we still do certain things that give them the inclination to feel that way, like they're gonna feel that way. Like if you're not trying to, like I've dated women where I've let them know, like, listen, I've got a lot going on. I can't really do that. So when it's like, oh well, let's go out to dinner. Are we going out to dinner or are we going out on a date? Because if you want to be able to eat, I know how to cook. You can come over, I'll cook. But if you want to go out on a date, then that's more of a relationship thing. And then I have to continue to kind of reaffirm I'm not really trying to do that. So for the times that we say, oh, well, I told her, yeah, you told her one, but then you started doing all these other things that could be perceived as you being in a relationship. So you are putting them in a position where they feel like you're leading them down that road, and you're giving them signs of, well, maybe if I do this, then he'll start to see me that way. Maybe if I do this, he'll start to see me that way. Um, we have to be careful of being mindful of what we're accountable for.
Agreed.
So it's not just the shorties that come up with, well, I'm going to change him. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. We as men have our own responsibility, because I know some very good guys that turned into just straight out assholes that were just doing shorties dirty because they got done dirty. And, there's women out there that are saying like, well, there's no good men out there. Well, let's take a look at your track record and some of the things that you've done to put you in a position where you can't find any good men. Because there's plenty of good men. They just probably see you coming and going, yeah, I can't mess with you. Because if you're looking at women talking about simps and bad mouthing men to a certain extent, where it's like, well, either you have all this money and you're able to take care of them, but then on the same flip side of that coin, if you're talking about them on the bad side, when you're talking to your girlfriends, like girl has 5 different versions. Like it has 5 different meanings right off the top.
Facts.
Girl, girl. You know what I mean? Like you got to understand that. Like I don't just get into something, I study it. I found women fascinating. So I studied and learned a lot of that to understand we are responsible. One of my boys, he recently got separated, and he's like, "Listen, like I don't know what's going on. Like I'm telling them I'm not trying to be in a relationship, but they keep trying to work something. I feel like I'm being hunted because you are. They legitimately are the hunters. Where we may feel like we're the hunters, they're the hunters because the way that it was, if we're looking old school, they had to lock something down while they still had all the assets that were allowing them to be able to land what they were trying to land.
Yeah.
That's why when we see people get into their 40s or 50s and they hit that wall and they can't rely on their looks the same way, if you spend all that time relying on your looks and not being a person of character, then when you get to that point and your track record says you've either been ran through, you've been nasty about the way you've been doing things, you've been calling guys simps, and all of a sudden you want to say you turned over a new leaf, how many people are going to want to be invested in that? So
Not
when
many.
we hear good guys finish last, we have a responsibility to make sure as men that we're not taking advantage of women, but women also have a responsibility to understand if you want to have good men, stop having good men finish last. Start putting them first. Because if you want to go through your trial and error and say, well, I have my bad boy phase, cool. Everybody has their phase where they have to go through whatever they're going through. But if you're not being responsible or holding yourself accountable for those things, then you can't say, well, there's no good men out there. Maybe they just saw you doing shit that wasn't right. And they just decided, yeah, you're not somebody I can mess with like that. You create the perception of how you're perceived. So you can't turn around and say, well, there's no good men out there. No, they probably saw you doing things. Like I've seen shorties where they stand outside and they got their arms folded. Darling, why you got your arms folded like you trying to block out the world, and then you turn around and saying nobody says anything to me? Pretty women are like, oh, men never come up to me, but then somebody may come up to them. Oh, why you that? You got to
It's,
you got to pick a lane.
yeah,
You
it
can't you
makes it
can't have
hard.
it both ways.
It makes it very hard to do.
So this is why I said we're in a renegotiation period because the old school values don't match the new school terms. So we're in a renegotiation period where we have to be able to meet somewhere in the middle and say, well, if you still want an old school guy to be a certain way, there were women that were carrying themselves a certain way to make that guy feel comfortable being that way. You don't get to say, like, I mean, there's shorties where like they're on Instagram and posting all these pictures and stuff like that, but you still want to be treated a certain way. Um, I am not gonna necessarily spend time with a shorty that's got her goods in the window. You know what I mean? And then want me to turn around and treat her like, well, I should be able to go to this place. Like I want to go to this fancy restaurant. Well, you know who gets to go to that fancy restaurant? Someone that carries themselves a certain way because I know when I bring you there, I know how you're going to carry yourself. If I don't know how you're going to carry yourself and I'm looking at what you're doing online and what you're doing is ratchet, I'm not bringing you someplace like that because that reflects poorly on me.
Yeah, especially you got a
So
certain
I've
standard got uphold.
this is what I'm saying. There's boundaries and expectations. Like we are in a renegotiation period because men are out of pocket and women are out of pocket. There are men that have just been getting over on women and shorties for so long that it's turned some of these shorties into saying like, I don't trust men and I got to be about myself and this, that, and the
Or
other.
studs.
And then it's just that long running thing of women knowing that they need to lock a man down within a certain amount of time in order to be able to make sure that they have the life that they need to be able to have. Because back in the day, they may not have gotten those jobs. But now that they've gotten jobs and we're in an era where they're getting paid just as much, in some cases more, it's a renegotiation period. You don't get to say, well, you should be paying all my bills. Darling, you make just as much as I do. We should be paying our bills because that's going to be how we get where we need to go. If we're on the same page and we're going towards the same goal, then me paying all the bills and you pocketing your money so that when you leave, you're good. And then you can turn around and badmouth me and say like, yeah, he couldn't keep this going, this, that, and the other. You're breaking that man. So when you say the guy used to be this or he used to be that, consider what you're doing to put him in a position where he was one way. and now he's not that way. So I think the accountability goes both ways. I don't want to make
Agreed.
it that like we tell them something and then they just don't listen. That part is true, but we also know when they're doing it, and because it wouldn't be to our advantage to say something about it, like, well, if I say something, she might go home and I can't hit,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't say anything, then you encourage her to be able to feel that way, and you don't get to turn around and say, like, I know, I told you why you're doing that. Both of y'all are guilty. Like, you both
Yeah,
have to take
it's a
accountability.
communication
So
barrier.
I just want to go back to that to say it's on both of us. It's not strictly on one or the other. Yes, there are shorties that are out there creating damaged men, and there are men creating damaged women. So if we're going to say what a real man needs to be, then we need to have real examples of it. We can't say, well, I don't want, like, what was it? Shorty was saying, I don't want to be with a bus driver. Okay, now you're a single mother out here, and you advertise to all these men that you don't want them as someone that you want to be in your life. Now, when you're in a situation and you want someone to be able to treat you like the woman that you want to be, there's only a select few because you alienated all those other ones because you told them they weren't good enough.
Yep.
So, for the shorties that like, I don't want a man talking to me, but you're going home with all your shopping bags and you're struggling to try to get your stuff upstairs, you've already shunned so many people that nobody's going to come up and say, darling, do you need help? I can help you with your bags. Like, I remember seeing a shorty coming in with a rug, and I asked if I could help her, and her friend was like, no, and the girl was like, no, I do need help. And I'm like, yeah, you might need to talk to your girl because I wasn't trying to talk to either one of you. I just saw you
Yeah, just
struggling.
being a good person. That's all it is. Being a
I'm
good
just
person.
it's how I was raised. So like we have to take responsibility both ways. I know how many times I've been in situations where a shorty was like, um, I've actually had some tell me where like, oh, I'm really not trying to get into a relationship right now. I got a lot going on. And then I saw when she shifted. I saw the shift, even if she didn't see the shift. And if it wasn't something that I felt comfortable with, that I knew I was going to be in a relationship with them, then it was on me to be able to acknowledge that, bring that to light and say, listen, I feel like things kind of shifted. But because if I didn't want to lose out on what I had and I stayed quiet, I'm just as guilty as they are. There's such a thing as being guilty but not responsible, or being responsible but not being guilty. We're guilty of knowing the truth and not holding them responsible for the shifts that we see. So we have to be able to think about not just what we're doing, but what we're allowing. And if we don't speak on it, then we're just as guilty as the person that's doing the thing that's doing that we're saying is a problem. And that's for both women and for men. If you say that you run it, all I run into a men at a certain way, that's your selection process. You need to start looking at what kind of men you're attracting and what kind of energy you're putting out. Because if you're only attracting a certain kind of men, you need to change your vibe.
Agreed.
If we're only attracting a certain type of women, and these women are the women that are like, are out for your money or whatever, then maybe don't lead with your money, lead with your brain. If you have a good conversation and you're giving what I call like mental orgasm, I'm stimulating your mind, then you don't have
Mm-hmm.
time to be thinking about my money.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm into. Cause like cause that's one thing is like, I don't care how pretty you be. You can be the baddest chick out there. You can be a mega stallion, anybody, right? But here's the thing though. If you fine as hell, but your brain is like as ugly as Honey Boo Boo, I mean, I'm not gonna really fuck with you like that, honestly, because I want to, like you said, right? I want my mind stimulated just as much. I want to stimulate your mind. I want you to be able to keep up in the conversation. We're having a conversation. Cause I don't want to dumb down what I know, what I'm aware of, just because it make you feel better. Cause it's similar to a situation last year when I was talking to this one chick, right? And she was asking me like, hey, like, what is it that you want to do in life? And I told her like, well, I'm an entrepreneur. Like I'm working on trying to build my business up, and eventually I want to, make a huge impact on people's lives and stuff, right? And what she did was she dialed that down and said, wow, that's amazing. You're a dreamer. Like, what that supposed to mean? Like what that supposed to mean? Like,
Uh-huh.
and like she and
You heard it
like
right.
yeah, like I'm taking it as like
You
a
heard it
low key
right.
offense. Like you try to give me a
You
jab,
heard
like
it
say
right.
a dreamer. Like I'm
You
not
caught a
dreaming about
stray.
like I'm not dreaming about nothing. Like I'm trying to I'm telling you, I'm speaking to existence, letting you know what I'm working on doing. Right? I can see I'm just saying it and now applying no action. Sure, then it could be considered a dreamer, but for you to even feel like she literally told me that she felt insecure because of my dreams and ambitions. Well, I mean, then maybe it's just not going to work out then for us to really be talking then, because you over here being insecure because of my dreams and ambitions. If roles were switched and you told me your dreams and ambitions, I'm not going to not once like dial that down at all. Cause like if I really care about you, if we get to the point to where we really care, like I really care about you, stuff like that, then I'm gonna do everything in my power to make sure that you're successful and put you in the right position the best way that I can. This is much I would like you to do the same, vice versa. And I also looked at like when somebody's on a road to entrepreneurship and then you have somebody who is like just a regular person who doesn't really want to achieve really anything like that, right? It makes it kind of hard for y'all to really vibe together in that type of way, because she does understand that you're an entrepreneur. She does understand that there gonna be times where you're gonna be very busy. There'll be times where you're gonna have to probably end up leave at certain times, whether that's do meetings, whether that's to fly out, stuff like that, right? And then at that point, due to her not being on that type of level, at least understanding that or adjusting to adapt to that, now now this creates then a toxic environment to where
Yeah.
if she doesn't end up just deciding that she needs to leave, but instead wants to cause damage more so than just leaving, now you're talking about when you're flying out, now she's cheating. Then one day you probably come back home early one day, and then next thing you know, you might find that she's cheating on you with a whole nother man, right? And so like I think it's a very important that when two people are both talking to each other, right, that they need to both be very communicative. Let them know exactly what it is that they want, and let the other person know what they're doing. Hey, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm going to be doing this, 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 and this. Will you be okay with that? And this is just let you know this is what it entails. And then at that point, all they gotta do is simply say yes or no. And then even they say yes, I want you to tell me how would you adapt then? Because I can't just simply just get that and then expect, okay, everything's good now. Because like I said, we're both human beings. We're going to need to be communicating. Communication is like one of the biggest things that's a big foundation in any type of relationship, whether that's a friendship, business partnership, or anything. When you don't have that, your foundation is going to crack into pieces and then everything's going to fall apart. Next thing you know, your empire that you were building or working to build now crumbles, because now you're doing lack of stress. You're doing to the lack of feeling like you always keep looking over your shoulder, all of that. So I agree 100% that I agree 100% on that, and that we definitely need to have those deep conversations, have those hard conversations when needed. So that way both people can be on the same page. So
You just covered the best part with that last part, when needed. It's an ongoing thing.
correct.
What happens is people say it the first time. And what I tell people is when I have conversations, I want to know what your definition of a word is. Because some people say, oh, I love you. Is that LOVE or LUV? Like, you know what I mean? I need to know what your definition of things are. Because some people say, like I've met people where they say, "Oh, well, I'm this, 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 and this," and then when put in the situation, you never know what you're going to be until you're in the situation. Like you can say a lot of things, but when the situation comes up, it's going to ask something of you that yes, you might have felt that way when it sounded good, but when you're in it, when it's an inconvenience, you may not be the type of person that wants to be able to do that ride or die. So, from an entrepreneur standpoint, um, you have to be extremely careful about who you're rocking with, because uh, that's where things like that come up. I've met shorties where they're like, "Oh, I want to be with somebody that's an entrepreneur, man, that has his own business, this, that, and the other." When you're first starting out, it's a 24/7 thing. So I can tell you from experience. I was with a shorty for 12 years, and she had expectations. Like she wanted to be able to go out and do things, this, that, and the other. When I was on the corporate side, me working, it was you work too much. Okay, well then I can start my own business and I'll have more time to be at home. Well, how come we don't go out as much? Because now I actually have to work. If I don't work, I don't eat. And that
Yeah,
means we won't have money to do what we need to do. So I could have stayed on the corporate side. You saw me a little bit less, but when you did see me, we get to do more of the extravagant things that you want to be able to do.
true.
But the moment I went out on my own, that's when it required more things from not only me, but from you. Because now that meant that I needed you to be able to support me in my business to the extent of I don't need you to like get out there and do the work with me. But like if you know someone that I'll give you an example. Like one of my boys, like he was one of the first businesses that I helped his wife was running around with the t-shirt on and telling people about the business and making sure that people knew about it. And then there are shorties that will say, that's for you to figure out. And they still want to be able to have the expectations
I
of
like
going out
wife
for
number
dinner.
one.
You see what I'm saying? There's the ones you can grow with, and then there's the ones that you can know with. You're going to have to tell them no a whole lot, and eventually those no's are going to lead into them stepping out and doing all the rest of the things because they have their needs and all the rest of that. So I say it's ongoing because you can't have that conversation once and say, well, you said this. That might have been a month ago, a year ago, whatever it was. Things have changed within that situation. Your business will change quarter to quarter, month to month, day to day.
Mm-hmm.
So those conversations will change. You have to do your check-ins. If you're not doing your check-in, then you are putting yourself in a position where you can't, like, you still have to hold yourself
And
accountable.
it's a
That's why I say
process.
accountable.
It's a process. It's not an
It is.
overnight thing. Because if you want me to work for myself more so we can have more time, well, here's the thing, baby. Like, in order for me to do that, I'm going to have to work really hard where there's going to be days where I'm not going to be able to have much time for you as much. I would love to. There's not going to be days I won't be able to because I got to do X, Y, and Z. But it's not a forever thing. It just is a
Yeah.
process. Once I get it automated, we good. The only thing I got to do, I got to oversee the business very little at that point. Everything's rolling in automatically. Then we can spend that time together as much as you want. It's just like
That's where the
anything.
check-in matters.
Yeah, and that's the thing because I'm big on that. I think what we should do in relationships is do monthly checkups to where at least once a month y'all sit down, y'all actually have a conversation, no cell phones, nothing. Y'all sit down and have a conversation with each other and just talk about y'all just talk about throughout the month, like what has happened. Has there been something that I've done that probably offend you that you probably didn't feel like that you didn't like, or something that you would like more of? And then if there's 1 month y'all don't, great. But then at that time, that's still within that window of time. All right, y'all do something together. Then play a card game. I love the podcast Tonight's Conversation because I actually got their card game deck, so it actually lets you start conversations to where y'all can get deep dives into stuff, which I love. So like, that's fine things to do because even though yes, between entrepreneurship and also her working or etc., like either way, at the end of the day, if y'all really love each other, y'all make time for each other anyway. It's just all about planning. That's the bigger thing is planning. If you don't have a plan, then you're gonna plan to fail anyway. That's literally what it comes down
Effort.
to. Mm-hmm.
Effort. Like, you can make a plan, but at the end of the day, like, the best of intentions don't equal the best results.
Facts.
Effort at the end of the day is what matters. If someone sees you're making a genuine effort, even if it doesn't deliver the results that they're looking for, if you're with someone that can appreciate the effort that you're making, then you're in a good position. But there's also you have to make sure when you're having the conversations that you're having honest conversations, because sometimes people will be thinking about what they stand to lose if they're having an honest conversation with you. So they'll tell you what you want to hear as opposed to telling you what you need to hear.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes someone could be telling you things and you're hearing, but you're not listening, as my grandmother used to say. Did you hear what I said? Yeah, but were you listening? So people can hear what you're saying and go, yeah, I heard what you said, but their mind is already on how it either benefits them or is to their detriment, and they're so busy processing that part in their head that they're not paying attention to how it affects everything overall. So it's not just important to be able to do those check-ins, but you have to have an actual honest conversation about, this is where I'm at, this is where I see things going, this is the effort that I can give you at this time. Is that still good enough for you? Is that meeting your needs? If it's not meeting your needs, then we need to figure out how to be able to make that work, or know that it's not going to work. Because what's worse than feeling like, all right, well, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm getting up and going to work and I'm doing all the rest of this because I'm trying to maintain all of this for Shorty, and she's over there feeling neglected because you're working for so long, that the next man comes up, and because he has more time to be able to give her, she's stepping out with him because he's giving her time, but she still wants the safety of the world that you're giving her by getting up and going to work.
Yep.
So that's where some of them end up in that situation where they will want to step out because they feel like they're not getting all their needs met. But you're seeing to their staples. And staples is in, you got a roof over your head, you got your cable, you got your basic things that you need, your necessities. You're not getting your niceties,
Hmm.
the nice things to have. And some will step out because they're not getting the nice things to have. Never mind the fact that they got a solid man that's standing with them, and vice versa. I don't want to make it sound like it's just women doing it.
Of course.
Men will step out because a shorty might go, well, I'm not in the mood, this, that, and the other. You could go a certain amount of time, but after a certain point, when you're stepping out in the street and you got shorties giving you a certain level of attention, and the person that you're with isn't giving you that same level of attention, that's where your mind starts to wander. You start to see realities beyond the one that you're in. So there's so many different moving parts that's why I say I base just about everything that I look at case by case, situation by situation. I don't want to assume that because you said something yesterday that it's the same thing today.
Mm. Okay. Okay. So I'm gonna ask you. So I got two more. Well, like three, but two more questions. I
Mhm.
actually want to ask you to kind of close everything up. So, as someone who has seen and helped businesses grow, what do you want your legacy to be in both business and in life?
Again, solution orientated. I look at people that are unhappy in their jobs, unhappy with where they are in their life, and my goal is to help them pursue their passions in a way that allows them to be able to do it, but removes some of the risk that are involved in it. So, if you can do it with a certain level of confidence, people buy from people that are confident in what they're doing. If you don't seem confident in what you're doing, then why would they feel confident in giving you their money, on results that you don't even feel good about? So my thing is to build up their confidence in what they're doing, make sure that what they're doing is a solid enough plan that they're not building a business on quicksand. Like you understand, like if you're saying this is what your business idea is, yes, you may be able to do that eventually, but you may also need to start with a smaller thing. So where some people say, well, I want to reach all of these people. Why don't we start with a smaller audience? Make sure that that audience finds you significant enough that you're delivering those results. Get them to start singing your praises, and then you can start to move on to some of those other things. So when I work with clients, I work in milestones and I look at where their life is, because you can make plans and look so far down the road that you don't take into consideration all the things that can happen in the meantime. Like there are people that started their business during the pandemic. I know a girl that was selling masks during the pandemic, and I'm like, well, what happens when they stop wearing masks? You're making good money now. What's your next step? Oh, well, I'll think about that when that comes. Like, what's the saying? I'll cross that bridge when it gets there.
Yep.
Okay, well, what happens when you get to that bridge and it's rickety and you don't feel confident going across it?
You had to step back and I had to wait to rebuild another bridge that's some more solidified, which
And
puts
then
you
you're
back.
starting from scratch
Mm-hmm.
all over again. And anyone that knows what you were doing before, that hears you're doing something different now, they start to look at you as someone that can't make up their mind. So that's why I think it's important to be able to establish the foundation of a business that, as long as it meets who you are as a person and your basic business ideas, if you know that you have a bunch of different things that you have in mind, start with one main thing that allows you to still do all those other things. But the main thing is always the main thing.
Mm.
So
Okay.
I'm a legacy builder. So like if it's something where one of the first clients I had, he said he wanted his children to know that they didn't have to be employees; they could run their own business. We got him to the point where he was able to leave his job in less than a year, match his salary, and now he has multiple businesses. And every time I see his son, his thing is, "Oh, I'm going to be an entrepreneur." And he went from saying, "I'm going to be an entrepreneur," to actually being able to say what he wants to be able to do. Now,
Let's
granted, he's a kid,
go.
so it may change as the years go by, but now he has the know-how and he knows that he can not only do it, but he's got enough examples to be able to start saying, well, I'm not going to run the same business my father runs. I'm going to run this business
He
because
got the
I like
tools
this and
now.
I'm going to do it
Yeah,
that
he got
way.
the proper tools now.
And you don't have to be an adult to be able to have a business. You can have a business as a kid. Like I said, like it, some people may say that candy business wasn't a real business, but I cleared my money and I made enough where like the teacher had to say something like, listen, your son, by the rolling through the bills by the time I got to that, like, listen, I made my money. So like there's no age range for it. It's if you've got a solid business idea and an audience that has a need, then you're in a position to have a business. But what you can't do is you can't look so far down the road that you're looking past what they prioritize. A lot of times, what people will do is they will focus on, oh, it's a great business idea. If you have something where it's a nice to have, but it's not something that they need to prioritize, think about how long your customer journey is going to be. First, they have to figure out who you are and say, yeah, that sounds interesting. And then you have to convince them that they should prioritize it. Why would you build a business at this point, like if it's new, with something that they don't prioritize? Figure out what it is that they prioritize, get them to buy from that. And then you can start working on the thing that you have that's a bigger idea, that once they know that they like you, trust you, and all the rest of that, then they may be able to invest in those things that it's not an immediate need, but by then they already like you enough to go, even if I don't need it right now, I trust you enough to know that if I invest in it now, it'll still be good for me later when I do need it.
Mm. I like that. I like that. Those are actually some really good key points there. Those are nuggets, sir. Thank you so much for that. Gosh. So, last thing, for anyone starting their business or trying to scale, what's one piece of advice that you'll give that person that can help them grow personally and professionally?
There's a few,
Hey,
but to narrow it
if you want to
down,
go few, that's fine with me. More nuggets, better.
no, know your surroundings, because entrepreneurship will tell you everything that you need to know about everybody that's around you. You will discover people that you thought were ride or die, are people that will walk out when you least expect it. There are people that you thought that didn't really value you, or you didn't really put them on a a certain level, and those are the ones that'll be your biggest champions. Entrepreneurship will tell you everything you need to know about the people around you. I would say also, don't skip steps, because the steps that you skip are steps that you're going to have to come back to later. And once you're more established, you have more to lose. Like when you don't have as much to lose because people don't know who you are, you can afford to mess up and figure things out. But once you're up and running, and let's say your business is out there and somebody leaves a bad review on Google or something like that, you can't figure it out then. You want to try to figure out as much of it as you can initially. So by the time you get to something like that, you're in a position to be able to address it or avoid it altogether. So the foundation is important, because every time you get to a new level, you're going to face new challenges. If your foundation isn't set, then you're going back to start. You're going back to scratch. If you establish your foundation, you're not going back to zero. You're going back to wherever you establish your foundation. If we're putting a number to it, if your foundation brings you up to 10 and you get up to 100, yeah, you may fall back, but you're not going back to zero. You're going back to 10. You've learned things that you already know that you can apply. You've figured out things that you can do so that you're not starting from scratch and you don't have anything in place. So put the foundation in place so that you can afford to screw up and still not get messed up.
Okay. Okay. Man, Sean, I appreciate it, bro. I
No
appreciate
worries, bro.
I appreciate everything you done today, everything you said. Those some very good points. And for anybody who wants to get in contact with you and just even check you out, how can they reach you?
I would say the best place to reach me would be, I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn mostly. I've got online communities where it's, if you're an entrepreneur or you're on the corporate side and you're just trying to figure things out, it's a good place to be able to ask questions and things like that. I call it takes a village, because it takes a village. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It kills me when I hear people say that there's like a self-made person. I do a lot on my own. I got trust issues, so I don't outsource a lot of stuff. I keep work to myself, because not everybody's going to have the same commitment that I have, but I know I wouldn't be where I'm at if it wasn't for other people. So I believe that that's important. But majority.media is the website. You can find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all the rest of them. And then within that profile is a link that will bring you to all the things that I have. So if you want to be able to learn more, if you want free resources, if you have questions, you need a coach, you just got anything that you want to be able to learn more about, just check the profile in on any of the platforms and you'll be able to get to my links, and it'll give you all the information that you need from there.
All right. Well, without further ado, I just want to say thank you so much again for being on the podcast today. It was amazing. I'm glad we was able to be blessed with your presence. And without further ado, I just want to thank y'all for listening today to the SoulSync podcast. If you liked and enjoyed what you heard today, make sure to like and subscribe, and make sure that, hit that follow button on Instagram. You can follow us on Instagram at SoulSync Podcast, and also follow us on TikTok as well as SoulSync Podcast. All right. Without further ado, I appreciate y'all. Y'all stay blessed and stay synced up. Peace.